All right, kia ora everybody. Welcome back to the second episode now of Kōrero with Creators, the Moko Artist Edition. Today we have one of the Moko artists, actually that I think might have been, if not the first Moko artist that I personally followed on social media, Haruru Arts. Kia ora, brother. Welcome in.
Cheers, brother. Kia ora te whānau.
I'm always being asked about Moko, and I try to tell people that the answers lie with the very people who upkeep this taonga, you guys, the Moko artists, you know. So I wanted to give my platform to Moko artists to hopefully give some clarity regarding these traditions and to particularly focus on how they're affected by the age of social media and online spaces. And so I really want the audience to see the variation in ideologies here, so be as honest as you can. I also want to preface for the viewers or anyone listening that we will use the term Moko artist throughout this video because it's easier to understand on a broader scale. There are many different terms that can be used to refer to practitioners of Moko, and no offense is meant towards those that might use other terms. So, firstly, introduce yourself.
Oh, cheer, brother. I te taho tōku māma, no Ngāti Pāhauera, I te taho tōku pāpā no te tai rāwhiti, ko Kauri Holasa hau. And actually my name, Haruru Arts, comes from my maunga, which is Maunga Haruru. And it's maunga that I whakapapa to on my mum's side, within Ngāti Kaungunu, Ngāti Pāhauera. And it's also to refer back to the whakatauki, whaia koe te iti kaurangi ki te tū koe mihu maunga teitei. If you're going to bow your head, let it be to a lofty mountain. So it's kind of a whakatauki and a ingoa that helps me keep my mahi honest and just keep to the high standards of our maunga.
Beautiful. That's nice, actually. Yeah, I always wondered what your username referred to.
Yeah, just our maunga. And then at the time, we had opened up a studio in town in Hastings here, and it was called Awa Inc. And we had all these different names often that we had suggested. Silly ass ones, but like we still try to think of it as a businessy way to be cleverly structured for Pākehā. So we didn't want a big long Māori name, but we wanted it to hāngai to Te Ao Māori. Mm-hmm. So we looked at Awa Inc. So the little analogies and metaphors contained with awa, and it refers back to pēpēha. So Māori mā, Pākehā mā, all have awa within their own whenua. The word itself had to be easy, so there couldn't be any butchering of the words. One of our words were rongokako, something around rongokako, who is a tipuna around here, or something along the lines of kahungunu. But then if people couldn't pronounce it, we wouldn't want their name to go off somewhere else, saying, oh, I got my tā moko done at rongokako.
Right.
Or anything like that. So awa was... it's pretty hard to mispronounce that. And then the same with, so I kind of took that same idea of what's easy to say, and also has kaupapa back to me and why I do this mahi, and that was my maunga, keeping my mahi to the standards of our maunga.
Ah, that's a cool story, actually. That's cool. Thanks for sharing that. So firstly, I would love to hear your personal definition or interpretation of moko. What does it mean to you?
Sweet, there's a bit of a hard question to ask because it's never as straightforward as it seems. It's pretty much like every question I get asked isn't really as black and white as this is the answer. It always varies off into different strains of that relates back to the core of the question. But it never goes in a straight line. It always branches outwards and outwards. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that's reflective of my tauranga Māori. It's like when I was doing my master's, we found that the institution that we were doing it required us to take heaps of strands of what we were doing and then narrow it down to one, where my tauranga Māori starts off at a point and then it branches outwards. So even like thinking about stuff like that was like way different at a different institution level. But the idea of moko, just the way of visually telling our stories through this art form. People often refer to it as tattooing. And I chucked up a thing on Instagram, TikTok a few weeks ago, and I was basically saying that moko isn't tattoo. And it was quite funny how much bites that even got to, because people who don't know the art form just see it for what they see, and they see someone with a tattoo machine, so they say it's a tattoo. So then I was often asking, you wouldn't call a chef a baker because they both use an oven. And then they go, oh, but that's different because one's baking muffins and chefs don't bake muffins. And I go, same thing.
It's the same thing. That's a good analogy, actually.
And then I'll also talk about how moko has whakapapa that has an atua. There's an atua of moko. There's deities of Niwareka Mataora. It comes through our own genealogy, and tattooing was, the word tattoo itself was born from a mispronunciation of Cook's voyage to Tahiti. And then that art form was taken back from the Navy people who would do like the Sailor Jerry's, late 1800s, early 1900s. So they're trying to categorize moko as a form of tattooing, which came around way later than the practice of moko.
Yeah, mean. So a little bit of a history, I guess, of your journey with moko. What got you into doing moko? How did you get started?
This is crack up, this one, kind of, because I kind of stumbled on it by accident. It wasn't until I wanted to go study art. I'll go back to the start. When people ask me how long I've been doing moko, or how did that start, that's another one that's always hard to answer, because it's never just the answer. I've been doing moko for 5 years or 10 years, because the longer I do moko, the more I realize that it's everything that I've done beforehand that plays its part into where I'm at the moment. So I tell people often that I started applying moko with the machine in 2017. But moko as a whole package, like 33 years. As cliche as that sounds, but
yeah,
it's probably the reality of it.
Yeah.
And then even like going onwards too, like the moko, the whole process as a practitioner will change you yourself, or you know what qualities you want to focus on that make you a better person and a better practitioner. There was and I kind of noticed it in our in the studio. There was 4 or 5 of us, and I was like, if we've all got beautiful mahi, if we're all from Kahungunu, if we all do this and do that, like, what's going to separate people? If someone were to come in, what's going to make them say, oh, I want to get done from this person? And then, so it comes down to sometimes getting rid of toxic traits you may have, and then just finding the stuff that will make you a better person. And that's often said to even as receivers too, but not only just receivers, it's for practitioners too. The whole process of moko is for the betterment of both parties.
Yeah, that's a good take as well, because you're right. It's a common sentiment for those receiving moko, you know, that it's a process in which you now carry yourself differently, you know, and you want to carry yourself with a different sort of, you know, a different kind of mana, right? Yeah. But it's interesting that you mentioned it. It's in the same, you know, it's a two-way street. This also applies to the artist themselves, you know, now that they're in this space and doing this for other people, that their ahua changes, you know, or has to change with these things. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And then, but at the same time too, I've seen one of my other most favorite artists is my bro's dad, Broughton Johnson. He's he's one of a kind man, and he hasn't changed anything, and that's what makes him the man.
Right.
He's open. Like sometimes you get like you see some people like become bullshit artists too, and it's even with kaiwhiwhi, like come and try and bullshit the process. Like they'll come spin the yarns just to get their kanohi done or something.
Right.
That's why I really love Broughton too. He's not a bullshit artist.
Right.
He's up guts. He's grunty. He'll tell you how it is. If he's uncomfortable with doing something, he'll tell you right to your face, and he won't tell a big story to pussyfoot around it. And that's another thing that I love about the process too. So it could navigate you to find who you are. So if you do decide to drop this trait off and drop that trait off, that's kind of you finding where you are.
Yeah, that's good. And it's nice to have that people that still keep the sort of a bit of a hard hat on, I guess, and they're just like not gonna take any of it, because you've shared stuff with me before, and I'm sure it'll come up later in the chat. But people do try and abuse you guys, the artists, and they do. Some people are sneaky, or they're trying to bullshit basically their way into these things. So you already talked about it a little bit before, but you do post on social media. So what is your relationship with social media as a moko artist?
This is another wānanga that's come up with wānanga that we have, or discussions that we have within wānanga. It can be seen as a bit of a double-edged sword sometimes, because of, especially nowadays, like the easiness. How do I say it properly? How easily accessible tools in that are.
Yep.
People can just go to the shop nowadays, or just go online and get a machine, get an ink, and get a this and a that, and then it's on their doorstep within 3 days. And then they can also look at all these artists mahi, and just basically either copy without going back to their natural resources, like the taiao. So I've got a rangatahi starting with me next week, just during the school holidays, as a tauira for the summer. And that's one thing that I've been pushing kōrero-wise, is just try not to take too much inspiration by what you see online. But like there's millions of things you can take inspiration from, within the trees, within the root systems of a plant, how different flowers blossom, like even the kink in the awa. Just like look at stuff that's already there, but not other people's work. But you can look at other people's work if you can see that the standard is being, what standards being set by the artists that are out there. The other side is you kind of need to still post just to show people that you're still doing mahi.
Yep.
I don't really post much nowadays, just because I used to get real bad anxiety ever since the COVID with the booking system.
Right.
I had like hundreds of messages, and then like at one point there I was just doing all my bookings, and then I was refreshing the inbox, and then it was like there were hundreds and hundreds of messages, and then like I just got overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that I had to do, and I felt like I had to answer them more, or else people being left on scene, they might get cut up or anything. But then I was on that too much, and then my whānau was missing out, and then there was one point there I was just got so overwhelmed, like I felt like my head was like just spinning around, and then I couldn't read the screen. I was going, fuck, I actually can't read it. And I felt like I couldn't breathe, and then I was going, fuck, this is out of it. And then, but people are more open nowadays, because I've kind of said it, that it's just me doing it. People often say, oh, you need your admin. But me responding to the people is an important part of the whole process too. So it helps kind of build that rapport. Like, that's one of my things that I don't like, is when people come into the shop or come into my studio, and then I don't even know their name. So at least if I've done if we've talked, even sent a few emails to sort the date out, at least I know the people and what they're after at least, and then it helps me. There's been I haven't done it this year yet or last year, I can't remember if I did it, but I go through my calendar each year, then I put everyone's name in, and then I'll send a print off just for everyone who's got mahi from me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was doing it the last couple of years, and then everyone I knew, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was they had come from Taranaki and they got their ankles done. Oh, this one, they come from Auckland, and this one come from Taupo, but I knew every one of them. But there was a few that I didn't recognize only because it was somebody else who had made the booking for me.
Right.
Yeah, so that kind of creates the so although I'm still trying to navigate the best way to do it, so I don't get that again, because it's happened more and more frequent whenever I open my messages and refresh, and then the numbers just, I feel like I'm letting everyone down. Yeah, and then I take it to heart too much.
Yeah.
So I'm still finding out the best process, but I do have an email that I put up. So they're usually the first ones, they get the space first, because I said my email is the easiest way, because Instagram and that have changed. Like the notification used to stay up until you had like even scroll back however far, and then you can open it and then it'll go away. But after a while, they just all disappeared, and then they built them up for so long, because I didn't know that they had disappeared, like just from leaving them for so long. But the email is better just because you can just click unread and then they all pop up first. The other thing with social media is it's real mean to just talk to people too. So there's heaps of people who've built up relationships with just from talking to them, just other artists. And then always get fangirl moments when people are like, Gordon like your message.
It is interesting, that ability to connect in ways that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do in person. You know, I mean, me and you have connected on the odd kaupapa just in the DMs, you know, here and there, sharing whakaaro and things, and it's like you wouldn't normally, unless I was driving down to where you live, you know, it's not something that you are just able to get in your day-to-day life, you know. There's not many, I don't know anyone in my area that I could approach, you know, but online you can find anyone for anything. This goes for any sort of information out there, you know, and it is one of the powerful things about social media, is that ability to connect. Connect.
One of the things that I did see, there was I think a Tongan artist based in Utah, and he offers what's the other word for tauira? There's a tauira, apprenticeships. He offered an apprenticeship, and then this lady, she's his current apprentice, but she's like recording all this in-depth kōrero and just posting it online. And then I commented, I was like, I love what you're doing, but I think you should be careful about what you post, because then it becomes open to everyone who comes across your page. And she's like, I've had talks with him and he said it's okay. I wasn't able to grow up in Tonga, so I love that I'm able to spend time with him, and I'm just doing this for people who may be in my boat too. And I was like, but what you're doing is you're also giving it away for people who do just like to leech and take. So at least with people who come from the same cultural background, that's okay for use, but it's not open to just them. And if they really wanted to learn, even the ones that you're sharing it for, if they really wanted to learn, they'll go over too. Or if you want to learn about your culture or the arts, what aspect of the culture are you wanting to learn? Are you just wanting to learn how to do tattoos or tattoo, or so what aspect of the art form are you wanting to, or of your culture are you wanting to learn? And that's all my questions. Is you got to be careful, because there's stuff that I don't post online too. Like I won't post like the in-depth kōrero of somebody's piece, or I won't post. I'll try and be really protective of who's receiving the content to and who's able to do what with it. Because we all know the troubles of what's being portrayed as moko in places like Europe, Brazil, Germany. There's all those artists. We used to get Europeans coming into the studio wanting a moko, then they'll pull out their phone with an image of the Rock, and they'll go, "But that's not moko, that's not moko." And they go, "Yes, it is. It's off Google." So back in 2018, we actually did a Europe tour, and that was the kaupapa of it, was to reappropriate the misconceptions of what moko was, how it was being received to Europeans. And like when we got there, we were like, "Oh fuck, nah, we can't do this in a 2-week trip." And maybe we just have to start with home first. And the most we can do is, if we see artists doing that, is just call it out when we see it. Because our time in certain studios wouldn't be enough to do what we needed to do, or do the intention of it. But yeah, that was another one, was just how social media can give the misconceptions of what moko actually is. But that's even for Māori too. Like not even for Europeans. Like Māori need to know what moko are. My last tauira, he was pretty bad for that too. Didn't have proper understanding of kōwhaiwhai. So I told him, I was going, "Oh, I don't want to see you even do like drawing commissions or painting commissions like with these tuhuona if you don't even know what they're called."
Right.
And like as I mentioned earlier, I'm real precious with moko and kōwhaiwhai and mahi toi in general, just because of what it's given me and what it's given my whānau. So I'll try and protect it as much as I can. So when I had a tauira, it was kind of, someone's commissioned me to do a portrait with them with some kōrus in the back. And I was like, "But those ain't even kōrus. There's a mangopari. It's puoro." I was going, "See, you don't even know." So like, you being with me now I have an obligation to tell you to stop doing it until you know. And then since has left.
Yeah, right.
You got to understand the overall package of what moko is. It's not just what we put on the skin. It's everything that comes along with it, and that's like comes down to understanding tohu, understanding whakapapa and history of everything. It was pretty cool. Like fairly recently, my understanding of my practice had been pushed by one of my favorite artists too, Rangi Kippa, if you've heard of him.
Yeah. We have carving mahi done by him in our whare.
Oh man. What is it? We were at a moko papa in Taranaki with him, and then he's just amazing how he thinks. And it kind of like I haven't started to implement that kind of thinking to my mahi at the moment, just because he just took my thinking like completely like this, and I was like, "Oh shit, I didn't think about that." Yeah, but it was mean though. It was mean, and it was just stuff that I didn't even think about thinking about.
Yeah, and that's what's good, and that's what I hope to try and achieve as well with this series. Is giving that. There's always wānanga to be had. There's always learning to be had, and social media, as we were talking, allows us to reach out and get those different ideas and seeing how different people think and their process for these things. Every moko artist, I'm sure, has their own feelings and processes about these things, and to be able to share that and give people an understanding of that, is a good idea. Which segues us in a little bit to the next question, which you kind of touched on, but so how do you feel about the current sort of exposure or popularization of moko online? It seems very popular right now, moko, Māoridom, whatever it might be, online. How do you feel about it?
Yeah. With moko itself, like there was the resurgence period where the volume of moko to be put out was to like kind of normalize the whole process. But I think at some stage we got to move past just that itself now. So what else does normalizing the process of moko look like? That it doesn't just relate back to us getting matora and kauai, but what other stuff are you doing? Are you once you get that, is that leading you to go back to the marae more? Is that lead you to enroll in that real course or the arts? What other contributions to Te Ao Māori are you having? There's a page on Facebook that I've just become on now, and it's kind of one of the, it's got pros and cons, like the volume of moko kanohi that's on there is good. But there's what I feel, sorry for lack of better words, is just still people bullshitting the process. And then when I've come and kind of questioned some of the stuff or said, oh, nah, it shouldn't be like that, or I don't do it, I never say, nah, you shouldn't do that because of this. I always say, I don't do that because of this.
Yep.
And then when people either try and call out my process, that's when I can kind of defend myself, because I was going, oh, this is my process. I've been to wānanga with these people, this people, this people, this people. I know what I'm talking about. What was it? One of the kōrero was about people bringing their own designs to the artist. And then I kind of said, no, you shouldn't really do that, because I myself don't do it, because I've had it too much times where people will bring a design and the tohu that they've used doesn't match the kōrero that they're saying.
Right.
And so then I just said that basically, and they said, no, that's, well, you need to have a talk to the guy who done me, because he said my drawing was beautiful, and it's your job as a kaita to be able to read it. And then I was going, well, that's the thing. I can read part of it, and like what you said doesn't reflect that.
Right.
Like you're saying you're a person of the whenua, like being brought up in the bush, but you got a mangopare, which is a symbol of the ocean. So I was going, that's why we don't do that, because you automatically contradicted your whole kōrero, because you and your artist didn't know what was being done. Yeah. And also left with another wise quote from one of the other, I won't say his name, just in case he doesn't like it, but he says, if you've got your own design and you take it to a moko artist, you don't need a moko artist, you need a tattooist. And part of the whole process too is when you go to a moko artist for any kind of mahi, you go there knowing their mahi, and you won't want to take them out of their process. Yep. I have had people like try and take me out of my process too much. One of it was around colour and faces. Yep. They wanted, I can't remember, but I basically said no, just because of who I've talked to, and that even if you add a dash of colour, that inch will soon become a foot, and then the foot will become a mile. Then how far, because you've added that one dash of colour into a kauai, how far down the track doesn't become kauai anymore? Right. But then that was the thing that kind of challenged me, because I had been living off that for like the last couple of years. I think I'd done my first kauai after the 2019 Matatini in Wellington, so 4 years now. And then this wānanga of Rangi Kipa, he was promoting the idea of using colour, just breaking the barriers. Right. Because he believes if there wasn't a gap in moko, that it would look completely different to how it does now. Yep. And then I was going, oh shit, he's right, I think.
That natural evolution of art forms, you know. Yeah, I mean, we even see it, like if you compare the quality of moko kanohi right now to like the pictures or the photos we have of our tupuna, it's different, you know. I mean, it looks the same in essence and in form, but the details, it's so much more detailed with the addition of modern tools, you know, that evolution of the art forms and what it allows us to do. I guess I see color as essentially the same thing, and you yourself, as someone who does do color elsewhere on the body, you know, you'll know again that pushing the boundaries elsewhere, you know, when it comes to things like moko. And it is interesting because people always ask me, oh, why don't people do color on the face? And of course, I don't really know, but I always assumed it would be because it's one of those areas that's seen as, you know, it's the true place of moko things, outside of the puhoro and such. And so that I feel like people were probably a little bit like, oh, you can't do color, it's changing it too much from what it is. But like, you're right, like what Rangi said, of course, it was also the area that was nearly gone. We lost so much of it in that time period that it's probably why people are extra careful and precious with it today, whereas if that had never happened, who knows what it would look like now.
So that's the thing that actually kind of got me like thinking, oh, I didn't really think about that, but it definitely challenged my thought process. I haven't critically reflected that myself any further, just because I'm happy in the state, and I think I'll need time myself to get my head around things like that, just for this whole process. And then I'll probably need to talk to like other practitioners too. But it's also being comfortable about your own process, about why you're doing things, and it can't be just to be different or trying a new space. Like you got to have kōrero to back up what you're trying out.
Yeah.
And what is it? I'd seen some kōrero about colour being added into a kauai, and then the artist will say, I just wanted to be different. And I was like, hey,
right.
You can't just do that. That's like one of the things about humbling yourself too. Like if you think you're greater, to just do something like that with no thought process behind it, and that's saying something about yourself.
Yeah.
There was a kōrero too. What is it? I recently went up to the Navy and I spoke about moko kanohi at the Navy. And then I can't remember what the question was, but then I kind of asked, said I'd seen a documentary, and there's an artist saying he doesn't believe there's no such thing as ugly moko.
Right.
But then I kind of said, nah, there is. Like, you can't just say it's beautiful moko because it's tohu Māori. But there's like different variations of what I think's classed as beautiful. There's ones that can be applied beautifully, but like have no cultural competency within it, or no tikanga, no karakia at the start. They don't know what the koru is. They don't know what unonahi is or pakati. They don't have any idea of the kōrero that they've just put on, but it's the application's beautiful, the design's beautiful, the shading's beautiful, no trauma to the skin, it's healed mean.
Yep.
But that itself doesn't make it a beautiful moko.
Right.
I'd seen a post somewhere of someone doing a moko, and it was probably one of the most beautiful ones I'd seen at the time. But at the time too, it was also getting vlogged, and the moko artist had said, oh, I'll start us off with a karakia. He started off with whakapaingia I nei kai hei oranga mo mātou tinanga. And I was going, hey, up to. And then so I always bring up that explanation of beautiful moko, lack of cultural awareness.
Right.
Or you can have a moko that doesn't look very nice, or may have been, the application might not be good, but all the whakaaro Māori and te ao Māori is all in there. You need a mixture of both. You can't just have one and the other.
Yep.
We often discuss too that within moko, what we leave is the actual process of moko isn't the most important. It is important because you don't want to leave a crappy moko on anyone, but it needs to have the overall package of what moko actually is.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know, whakapaingia I nei kai is a karakia for food. It's like it's not for, it's not a moko karakia anyway. So just touching back there again, about the colour, evolution of colour and that sort of thing in terms of applying it to moko kanohi, moko on the face. I think it's also interesting too, because I would say, just from me personally, we'd also want to just normalize and re-educate people on just moko as it is now before, you push those boundaries too much, because there are still plenty of Māori who don't even understand moko in its current form, let alone you go and start changing it a whole bunch, and then it's just going to really confuse people and go, oh, blah, blah, and it gives people a platform to sort of, ramble off on whatever tangents and misunderstandings they have, where we want people to just understand what moko is like now, have more whānau confident and happy enough to get moko, and then I guess it allows more space for people like yourself to then start pushing the boundaries once it's become more accepted,
Yeah, and I think even with something like that, it can't just come from any artist. It needs to be like ones who are like pakeke in the space. Like even somebody like me, I don't think I'll be able to do that and it be received amongst our own peers.
Yep.
It needs to be somebody else who's already established well within the whole community of Te Ao Māori, not only Te Ao Moko, but Te Ao Māori itself. I ended up going to an art school, but I was growing up with my mum saying, no, you're not allowed to do art at school or kapahaka. There's no career and that kind of stuff. I had to go get a trade. And then it wasn't until after school I'd become a tradie, but then bloody the fellow was an arsehole, like didn't pay us for ages. Like, oh, fuck, is this what being a tradie is? Like the boss holding our pay for ages and doing all this like hard ass mahi. And then, so I actually in my like 6th week with him, after not getting paid for like 5 weeks, on our 5th week, he gave us $1,000. And then we go, oh, is that it? And then he goes, oh, I've just given you $1,000. And I was, you're short 4,000. And then, what is it? I actually told him I had a doctor's appointment. And then I shot off to Toimarangi for an interview with Sandy. And it was pretty cool because he's a relation of mine. And then I was name dropping my pāhaueratanga and my raupungatanga. And then he goes, oh, who's your mum and then? And then I told him, oh, my mum's blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, oh, your mum said there's no career in art. And he goes, oh, bring her and your nan in. I'll have a talk to your mum. And it was funny. And then from the next day, I actually enrolled for the next intake. And then my mum jumped in my car. She goes, did you knuckle me? Yeah. And then, so when I started there, he was kind of guiding me to become an art teacher.
Right.
And then I'd become an art teacher for a little bit. And then at the same time, that's when we had opened up. At the end of our Toimarangi graduation, there was a guest speaker there, and he was talking about how the arts are like a healing mechanism for rangatahi struggling with whatever they may be struggling with. And then so I said, oh, I think that might be me, is using mahi toi as a form of healing. So I ended up becoming a youth mentor, and I would just use the arts and what I was doing in the arts, like our circle will be having exhibition or preparing for exhibition. And I would just bring the rangatahi that we're working with to come sit in the space just for the positive outcomes. And then become an art teacher at a high school while we opened up our shop too. And then this was after we had studied our masters. I think we had failed terribly from our art our art masters, me and one of our bros. And then the bro had said, oh, would you come open up the shop with me? Then I was like, I didn't even do moko. You want me to come open up a shop with you? You got to let me watch how you do it. And he goes, oh, yeah. Because I remember asking him, and he said, I went out and learnt by myself. So that's how I think you should just go do it. Right. And I was like, oh, sweet, all goods. And then, when we decided to open up the shop, I said, oh, you got to be a bit more open with me, like learning the process, because I don't want to be putting out crappy work like in a space like this. Mm-hmm. He goes, yep, no, sweet. And then, that's how they come across. So we opened up a shop after our masters failed. We passed, but it wasn't pleasurable experience.
Right.
Like even the idea of mahi toi in the space of art school, traditional art school with, we just felt that it wasn't Māori enough for us. Like it even got to the point where we were like, at the time, the secondary high school kapaka competition was just across the road at Pettigrew, and our course was at EIT in Taradale. And then we said, oh, we're going to take this week off because we're going to go draw on all the schools. And they said, no, you need to you need to have your studio hours up to scratch, and each paper has like 80-hour studio time. And then I was like, are you serious? And I was like, the bro were the only ones here, like out of our class of 12, like, because at Toimarangi, we used to stay there overnight and just paint all night, go home like in the morning for a shower, come back, and then just stay there all day. So like in our masters, we had like keys to stay 24 hours at EIT. And then so that's what we used to do. So then we used to just stay there painting, doing hardcore mahi for like just 24 hours. And it was mean. Then we just said, oh, this week we're not going to be in. And then when they said that, I was like, I already ticked up like 100 hours because we've stayed here like all week. And then you better be having like this conversation with like the ones who don't come in at all. And then it was like quite funny because when they didn't want us to go, then they said they were going to like report us to the ethics and morals committee or something. Yeah, it ended up being like real big. But then when they saw the event was like a national event and like how much people were coming in and out, then we started going out on the posters as, oh, our EIT students are all drawing or being now a part of it. And then I was like, hey. So that even led to like even our end of year, our graduation the next year. Like I didn't want to go and graduate because I didn't want to be seen as a product of that institution. I was like, nah, you were hard ass. Like you didn't understand where we were coming from, and then you weren't willing to like learn about what we were talking about. Like there was one of the tutors, he would like use like the flash as flash as words, and then we'll go, oh, what's that? And he goes, oh, it's not my job to explain it, you go and figure it out.
Right.
And then we'll use words like tahuhu. So I done these big ass canvases, like drawings, they were like 3 meters long, and they were to like represent a tahuhu. And then he goes, oh, what's a tahuhu? And then I said, oh, it's not my job to explain. You can go figure it out. And then I got,
oh, classic.
But then I was able to like, because he marked me down because of that too. And then I was able to like, what is it when you challenge it?
Yep.
And then he had to change it because he done that out of, because he got the bum itch.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like 5 of us that had gone from Toimarangi over to this because it was a pilot program too, and it was real funny because there was 4 of us who we just stuck to our roots, and I was like, nah, I'm not changing just to tick these boxes. Like our mahi toi is here, and this is what we need to be focusing on. And then one of our bros, she had actually like try and change that just so she could tick the boxes, and on her end of year exhibition, she was doing it on her throwing you under the bus, our mouse. If you're watching, what is it about her tūhaurangi tanga? So she's from tūhaurangi, and she was doing all of her mahi around that. And then she opened up her exhibition with a whakatauki from John Rangiho, who's from Tūhoi. And then one of the bros who was also there, he actually said that too. He was going, how? Painting about your tūhaurangitanga, but you're opening quotas from someone from Tūhoi. And then like that stuff that we picked up, and we said you shouldn't do that because if you're talking about this, like you should find the whakatauki or whakatauaki from Tūhaurangi. And then she, they won't know. And I was, but we know. And then like this is where it counts. Like, are you trying to tick these boxes or the boxes you need to tick that aren't there? And that's something that we have to do with moko too, like to ensure that moko is being done properly and correctly, is that we are ticking the boxes that people may not see as valuable or important. That was one of the things with the tauira that I had to let him go because I had asked him, when you go away this week, come back and then you got to tell me the significance of what rarohinga is, what uetonga is, or if it's a person, niwareka, what or who, and matora, just those 4 four things. You got to come back and tell me what they are. Then come back and Jeff, have you got those things? He goes, oh, nah. And I was like, oh, hey, if you're not even bothered to do that, then I'm not going to spend my time on you teaching this stuff just because you think this is the cool stuff. Like, really, this is the cool stuff. Yeah, and that's just the overall package of moko.
Yeah. So then if we take that and we circle back to the popularization of moko online, with that, obviously there has been a rise in people like myself, these creators who have become front-facing for things like Māoridom, for things like moko kanohi. But obviously we are still just the kaiwhiwhi, right? We are not you guys, the people who actually give moko and are taught all this knowledge regarding moko. So what are your thoughts about this rise in creators like myself in online space in regards to being, I try not to use the word spokesperson because I try not to be a spokesperson either, but you know.
Well, I think it was actually you who said, I think I read a comment saying, I act as a flag post or a signpost saying this way, ask questions this way, and then yeah, that's well, because even people like yourself, it's not just information that's just come out of nowhere. It's come from still wānanga itself. Same can be said about me not being a maumoko. So there's different aspects, but it's more so people too that have like a one-dimensional view or who have just popped up out of nowhere to kind of give opinions on it.
Right.
And it's kind of not justified with any substantial rangaho. They're just going off the backs of, I'm Māori, I can get it,
right,
or I can talk about it, which is true to a point, but I often ask, we haven't spoken about it as much or discussed it as much, was does a Māori with no experience trump a non-Māori with all this experience? And that's another important thing to ask too, of like the resources in that are all there for everyone to learn, or people can just go next door to go learn something or just send a message to somebody, and if they don't reply, they probably got anxiety because of the number of zeros or hundreds next to their inbox. But just keep asking, like because I often say, and if you can edit this into the start of our kōrero, that everything I say is just hāngai to my own practice and my own thoughts and processes. And it could be different to my bro in the studio. Some of the things, I know one of the other bros in the studio, he was a bit more forthcoming to colour in Kauai particular. I'm not too sure what his stance is now, if he's done it again since, or if he hasn't done it again since, or what he found. But yeah, processes are changing, but it's as long as you can back your own kōrero up. If you think there's going to be any backlash, then you got to be well equipped to handle that too. And if you're not, then don't do it in the first place, or don't think you can bullshit the whole process. And that's if you can't handle people coming to you afterwards and say, what did you do there for? Let's bit out of it. Because it did happen to me once. I'd done a kauai on a takatapui.
Right.
I call it a kauai-inspired moko because I changed the process slightly to how I do kauai. Right. Even before I did it, it didn't just start from her messaging me, hey, sweet, let's come on this date. Oh, this date I'm free, you're free, that's us, this date. So she's been the only one that's been open with me from the start. She goes, before I carry on this kōrero about me wanting to receive my kauai, I have to let you know that I am a takatapui. And then I say, thanks for letting me know, because there's been times that I've gone to the house and got a bigger beard than me, broader shoulders, and just got a dress up. Are you sure?
Right.
And then I was going, I don't feel comfortable doing this because, you knew that it's going against the norms, so you should have let me know. And then so that's why I felt comfortable at the start. And then I had asked her, okay, this goes beyond the kōrero of with just me and you, it becomes a kōrero to the wider whānau, like both parents, all your grandparents, aunties and uncles. And if one person kind of objects, then that's the wānanga that you guys need to have.
Right.
And then we did have a kōrero with all her whānau, and they were all for it, like, and they all supported it. And then so I went in knowing, and I myself had asked like multiple different artists too, and then it kind of gave me the confidence to go in and do it, having the appropriate kōrero with the kaiwhiwhi. And then once I had that kōrero and the kōrero with her whānau and herself, it kind of gave me the confidence to know, if any backlash does come, which I know there will, whoever's exterior opinions come in doesn't trump that of her parents and her grandparents and her aunties and uncles, and they all had kanohi as well.
Right.
But I did change the process. So for me, the kauai and mataora represents the person itself. So this one I changed to represent this person's whanaunga. So it did represent something else, and like to me, it was a big enough change for it not to be a kauai, but a kauai-inspired moko.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool kōrero actually, because it's one of the more popular questions that I get asked is how does a moko artist approach situations like transgender, non-binary, whatever it might be, and it's an answer that you don't often hear a solution for, because it's so, Te Haunui said for him, it's so new, it's such a new in the space of moko for him, he doesn't really know how to approach it. But you're someone that obviously has been through that process in your own process, and there's an approach to it. People listening in, that's a approach to this question, but that's cool. So that's the first person who's answered that question.
Yeah, and it got asked at the Navy Hall too, just because people were asking, and then I said, it's all case by case, just the same thing again, so no one's bullshitting the process. On the page that I was talking about earlier, with the person who brought the design, that's always a common question on there too. And then I always said, it's never just straight forward, it's never black and white like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just only where the difference kind of comes in, where is what I did a kauai, even though I call it kauai inspired moko.
Yep.
Or should we try and create a different name for it as well? Mm-hmm. The tohu itself, are we to create a different name?
Yeah, nice. And so touching on before you mentioned about not being mo moko, one of the big confusions people have when they approach me online is that because I've got it, I think a lot of people expect that I am also a person that gives it. Lots of people ask me these questions as if I am a moko artist, and I think it's purely because I have it. But I often say, you find lots of moko artists don't have it. Now, this might be too personal of a question, so you're more than welcome to not answer. But as a moko artist, why do you not have moko kanohi yet?
I actually had a date like a few weeks ago, and then didn't hear from the bro.
Oh, really?
yeah. But like that's gone to like wānanga myself too. Like I was going, okay, so me getting it doesn't just require me to be ready. It needs to be the artist as well needs to be ready. So not just myself. So that's what I'd come down to. But I'll be putting a foot on the gas pedal if he doesn't miss his best soon.
Yeah. Oh, that's mean though. That's mean that it's in the books relatively soon.
Yeah. And that's just because I know the bro's so busy too. And similar thing, like, because I know like when we see messages pop up, like sometimes it just gets overwhelming. Like when like you can see the first part pop up, like just if we're busy, like even if I'm working and my phone will go off, I'll see Kia ora, are you free to do it? And then I was like, fuck. And then like I just need to like have a couple of breaths, or even if I'm just see those first couple of lines, like no matter what I'm doing, I just need a couple of breaths, just because if we know we're already packed out, to me, sometimes seems like, fuck, if I open the message and talk to them, like I might be letting them down by saying, oh, my next space isn't until like mid next year. Yeah, just still navigating that space hard out, man.
Yeah.
But then, because I know like what it's like for other artists too, in particular, like if I'm the one trying to make the booking too, so I don't really get caught up in it or cut up or anything.
Right, because you know what it's like being on the other
end.
Because I know
what it's like, yeah, on the other side. But, that was the main thing was I did want to get it a while ago, but I felt like I needed to educate my own whānau with it.
Right.
Because my mum, she was against it from the start. But then like throughout the years, and my dad, he was going, oh, if you want to go get it, thought you. And I was like, right. I better have talks with mum first. And then, just the more I've told her that I'm getting it done, asked her, and then I kind of stopped asking, and then I just said, I'm getting it done. Like, so I just really, really want it now.
Right.
And even more so too, like we were down at the Toitu Te Tiriti hikoi or karakia and things the other day, and then like I just told my missus as we took the babies there, I was just I think I really, really want it now. I want it now.
Yep. Yeah.
And I was like, and if it lines up that the bro's not ready to do it, then I've got a list of other people too.
And I think that's something good for people listening in to realize as well is moko for lots of Māori, it's bigger than a personal decision. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's your decision, right? It's your body. But you're right, like you said, though, having your whānau comfortable with the notion is a big part of people's process. You know, me, myself, I talked to my whānau about it, my mum and my dad, and I was also... I probably would have still got it done maybe at a later date, but what really pushed me to get mine done when I got it was that I convinced my mum that, and she was ready to get it done as well, right? So to do it together was a big part of how it sort of fast forwarded that process for us and that learning for whānau, especially because like many Māori can probably attest to, my parents, when I first told my parents about getting my arms done, you know, it was like, oh, what the heck, you know, like, because that for lots of Māori, that education is missing, you know, it's missing in our history because of whatever colonial history we have here for our families. And there is a lot of that misunderstanding, and that stigma still exists, you know, for many of our Māori whānau. But it's particularly interesting to still see that even in the whānau of people like yourself who do moko. You know, lots of us, of course, don't necessarily have anything to do with it outside of general Māoridom or whatever, you know, but for someone who is actively practicing moko and educating others and giving moko to others, that even in your own whānaus, those same stigmas and apprehensions can still exist. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. It was actually quite funny too, because even one of the ones who's still trying to say not to get it is Sandy. But I know, like, if I were to get, when I am to get it, like, I want him to come, so he'll probably come over.
Right.
And then I know he'll still be proud, but he'll go, I just don't think so. And then even like he feels uncomfortable with me doing it because I don't have mine myself.
Right.
Yeah. And then I was like, what is it? I can't remember what he said. Kind of switch off when he says it. But because I respect them so much, it still triggers points to wānanga and discuss with him myself too. Those when I had that, it was kind of the first time that I had the overwhelming feeling of, I think I really, really want it. So when we were driving there, our kids were going, are we going to Koanga? Because we've got their routine on lock. And then when we took the other turn, they go, we're not going to Koanga, we're not going to Kura. And then we go, no, we're going to the karakia in town. And then we go, this karakia is just to let everyone know we're proud to be Māori, son. Proud to be Māori, my darling. He goes, we're Māori, eh, Dad? And I was like, come on, darling. And then even my partner, she was fucking cool as and with everything too. And then I told her, then she goes, what? Sort your date out then?
All right, beautiful. Well, that ties up that first section of the Kōrero with is my questions. So now we'll go into the frequently asked questions, where I wanted a portion of these episodes to be dedicated to the questions that I'm always being asked by my followers, by my viewers. And hopefully over the course of the series, they'll be able to see how much or how little variation there can be in the answers amongst moko artists. And hopefully potentially break down some of the misunderstandings surrounding things like moko. For you, your answers can be as simple as a yes or no, or in depth as you want. There's a lot of questions, so it depends on how long you want to take per questions. And a technicality for the listeners and for yourself to help answering and maybe not having to preface so much before each answer. Answer these questions if you are answering someone who is approaching you as a client. You know, because it stops you from having to go, don't worry, this is just my opinion, there's 100 otherwise you do that for every question. If I was going, hey man, can I do this, and then asks a question, what you would answer them personally for people who would like to come to you. And because hopefully it also means that people listening, you know, they might find what they're looking for in a potential artist through these frequently asked questions. You know, someone goes nope, and they go, okay, maybe not the artist for me, but then someone else might go, yep, that's all good, then they might have the artist for them. So we'll start it off with the very popular question: is moko only for Māori?
Nah, just depends what moko. Kanohi, yes. Only for Māori. Pūhoro, yes. Case by case, that one has to be very, 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 very special circumstances for it to change. But 99% Māori only. Anywhere else on the body, I actually feel honoured when people from overseas want to tell their story in the form of moko. So I
so you personally call it all moko? Do you use the term kirituhi for you personally?
Yep, I call it moko. Because kirituhi can be like a subcategory of moko,
right,
if you will. That could be even the term of the Kauai-inspired moko that I've done on Takatapui. That could be a more appropriate context. There's sometimes too where the term kirituhi I felt was like a cop-out excuse for non-Māori artists to do moko.
Right.
Where they'll do it and we'll call them out, you shouldn't be doing moko. You go, this isn't moko, this is kirituhi, I'm allowed to do kirituhi.
Right.
That was another thing that we found. So the word kirituhi started to get bastardized, if you will, just by people trying to justify their own bullshitting process.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting, actually. This is more about terminologies here, but people get confused a lot. Is it tā moko, moko, or both? Or what is the difference, if there is a difference?
Both, I think. Tā refers to the etching of the moko. Yeah. So yeah, just both.
Yeah.
I don't go around saying I'm a tā moko artist. I'll say I'm a moko artist. I do moko. Tā moko. I think it's same kind of.
Yep.
Ringatoi is another one, but that's artist in general because I do paintings. Eventually start on carving, maybe in a few years when I can focus a bit more on it.
Yeah, that's something I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, same.
I'm only part Māori. Can I get moko?
Yep, I think it's the same kind of thing that fits in the first category. Or is that moko kanohi? Like I'm part Māori. Can I still get my kauai or my kaora?
Yeah.
Or in general.
All the same, I guess.
Yeah. Because the thing about quantum, we don't measure the amount of Māori and quantums unless you're David Seymour, then you have your Māori card. No Māori for you, brother, David Seymour. And Jones and Winston Peters.
I mean...
if it's too politically.
No, it's fine, because it's one of the biggest things that I focus a lot in my content online is trying to unteach that concept of blood quantum, you know, because I do all this, and I posted Te Haunui's clips and I didn't actually have this question in there. I must have forgotten forgotten to ask him. But, you know, I did the is Moko only for Māori question, and he said, yes, except blah, 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 his little 1% scenarios. But then the comments was full of, oh, but what if I'm part Māori? And you know, forget that people still so often don't necessarily consider themselves Māori if they have that, as soon as they smack that word part Māori on the front. So it's good to try and break that down.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things too, that I did do a moko kauai on a Tongan wahine, but she didn't realise she was Tongan until her dad passed away, and then at the tangi they found out his great grandfather was actually whāngai to Māori whānau. And then so when she come in to me after her dad's tangi, she goes, oh, I want my kauai because my dad just passed away. Is there anything that I need? I said, nah, the only thing you need is to be Māori. And she goes, oh, well, that's the thing. I just found out I'm not even Māori at a tangi. It was my great-grandfather was whāngai to a Māori whānau. And then I go, oh, shit. Oh, I need to go have a wānanga first. And then I actually took that question to our Moko Ora wānanga. And then I said, oh, I've had this. And then it was... I won't say any names too, just in case they don't want to be named. But this one artist who I respect in this field of te ao moko, they had said, my baby's a whāngai, but there's no way you're not telling him that he's not mine, he's mine. And so everything I give him comes from me. And so as long as they're not just trying to trick the process, then I'll go for it. Then I was like, oh, sweet, so if I'm protected by your fellas kōrero in this question or kaupapa, then I'll happily go do it. And you could tell, like, she was, like, upset, like, to find out that she didn't whakapapa Māori.
Right.
But she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing, because the adoption whāngai question comes up a lot, you know, but I always try to say it's whāngai, it has a different element to it than just adoption. You know, when we hear the word adoption and the legal process surrounding adoption, but for Māori, whāngai often translated as adoption, but it's deeper than that, and it is quite often, by all accounts, that whakapapa is now theirs, you know, and that whānau is now theirs, you know, so it's nice to see that carried forward.
Yeah, that's similar to how people mistranslate tā moko to tattoo.
Yes.
Just because they put in Google, what is tā moko, and then I will say tattoo. And I go, it's just because it's the closest equivalent. Like, it doesn't mean tattoo.
Yes.
Like, and then I also say too, like, tattoo has different categories, like American traditional, neo-trad, script, black and grey realism, photorealism.
Yep.
And then in moko has its own categories. Ora, moko kiore, moko kuri, kauai, ngutu, ngutu kurua, kurawaka, all this other stuff like that. It has in categories. And like in tattooing, you won't put any of these categories in there.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Closest equivalent.
And that's what I said too. When people say like on this, it was like so annoying on TikTok. Like I actually can't stand it anymore just because I can't handle it. Like
it's crazy.
I keep getting. I got like 20 accounts being reported because of comments, and I just like it got to the point like I'll put a clown face and then my comment will get removed, and then I was like, oh, I can't put a clown face. No,
it's an interesting space to navigate. You know, I've had my fair share of moments in the comment sections. Do you have to have permission from elders in order to receive moko?
In certain cases, you might have to, just like how I gave the example of when the kōrero didn't just result in me and the kaiwhiwhi, but it needed a whole whānau consultation. I would say not all the time, just because some of the elders are still stuck in that mindset of you need to talk reo, you need to do this, you need to do that. There was actually a question. There was a matua Timoti here asked me what reanga do I see coming to receive their moko? Is it the older generation or the younger generation? And he was saying just because the older generation, we were taught no. But then it's like his kids are gone I really want my kowai. And then like it took his daughter asking her parents to get it, to like say, oh shit, maybe we do need to like thinking like, but I said, nah, there's both. I do young people and old people. It's quite amazing. I think the oldest person I did recently, his first moko was his shoulder, but that was just practicing for his face. It was on one of my uncles, Uncle Don.
Right.
But yeah, he was one of my oldest kaiwhiwhi. He was about 80. I think he just had his 80th.
That's mean,
he looks good, man. He looks mean.
And that's awesome. That's awesome that healing and that learning can still come so late in life, you know, never too late kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which flows perfectly into the next question. How old do you have to be to get moko?
Just with me personally, anything under 18 requires parent consent. I've had 2 tono from people who I've done. They want their 13-year-olds to get it. And then I say, oh, this needs the whole whānau, like, because I don't want this person's dad to come up to me, you did my daughter.
Right.
And if there is that, then that's kōrero you and the whānau need to have. Like, so all of those things are kind of settled down beforehand.
Yep.
There's one kōrero that I really, really love from Johnny in regards to receiving your matoro kowai. And she says, if you've got any other questions other than where and when, then you're not ready. Quite staunch to that too. Usually people will come to me for the answers and I kind of don't like giving them.
Right.
Just because it could be seen as me just saying, oh, he's just saying get it because he's a moko artist.
Right.
Or it could be seen as me influencing just to get it.
Right.
So I do try and not initiate any kōrero in regards to that, just so they can have their own wānanga as a whānau or with other people. Even last night there was a wahine trying to book in for a kowai. He goes, oh, but do I need to know this? And then I was going, as a basic prerequisite, then yeah, you do need to know this. He goes, oh, but how? Because I really want it now. And then can I get it now? Then I was going, I can't tell you yes or no. I can only tell you what date I'm free.
Right.
But if you're not ready, or if none of your whānau is ready, then there's the discussions you need to have. And I don't want to be a part of those discussions, hands-on discussions, just because it could be seen as me trying to get you to do it.
Right.
And it actually resulted, that same kind of kōrero resulted, one of my best mates, he got his matora done from Lance, but it was meant to be me for like years.
Right.
But then just because of our kōrero that we had, that resulted in me not being the one.
Right.
And then, no, that's what I live by.
Yep.
And even if that results in my best mate going to another artist, then I'm still happy with that.
Right.
And because me and Lance call each other twin anyway, because we got the same birthday.
Oh, really?
So I say, oh, nah, that's technically kind of me.
Right. mean.
That's how staunch to that I kind of am. Because if there was any person that I would want to influence so that I do, would be this person.
Right.
My bro Edward, but because it's not my process to do that or my protocols to do that, it resulted how it was meant to be, and that's how it was meant to be.
And that's a good honest kaupapa too, you know, that's a good sentiment to hold as an artist, you know, because I imagine, you know, and I'm sure people have those curiosities sometimes, like, oh, they just saying yes so that we pay them the money, you know, or whatever. And so to have a sort of a personal kawa, I guess, regarding that sort of thing is cool. It's unique. I haven't heard that yet. Yeah,
because he was one of the ones that actually like introduced me to Te Ao Māori, like properly, like when I was doing haka at school. He was our new tutor, like when I was like 16 or 17. So then, like later on, he asked, "Oh, do you want to come into a senior team?" So then I've been doing hakas ever since then, like 2007, 2008, and then like through then he was just like giving me heaps of whakapapa, heaps of kōrero. And then he had asked me to do him, his sisters, and his niece and nephew, who's like his kids. yep. So we had a moko papa sust, and then through this kōrero, resulted in him not getting done. But it was wretched too, because I done that moko papa, me and our bro Tamatama, we done that on the Saturday, and then there was this beached whale out Mahia, so we went and helped straight away on the Sunday, go do that. And after that, we come back to Hastings, and then on the Monday, I was working on a pūhoro, and then my bro ended up walking up the drive. He goes, "Oh, I need to come see you." "Oh, what are you up to?" And then he walked up and he had his face done, and "Hey, that's what you did today." And I go, "Oh, did old Lance do that?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I was, "You should have told me, boy, I would have come." And he goes, "Nah, I didn't want anyone to come." And I was, fucking bastard. I was more cut up that I didn't get an invite to him getting done.
It's interesting, eh? People's personal process regarding that. Obviously, just wanting to do it privately, kinds of things.
Yeah.
For some people, they want the whole iwi to rock up.
Yeah, there's only been one person I've ever done who said they don't want to make it a big thing and who's meant it. And like this fella's a pretty prominent figure within Kahungunu. And then when I rocked up to his house, I was like, "Oh shit, is this the right house? I don't hear anyone inside or no cars." Right. And it was just him and his wife.
Wow.
His kids were getting dressed for school and they were on the game while I was doing it.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool. And then he goes, "Nah, we didn't tell anyone." And then so I was having the same thing. Like I kind of only went my mum, dad, Sandy, and my kids.
Yeah.
And my missus, our partner. Yeah. But then like I've had so much people messaging that I've done. They go, "Oh, when you get yours, can I come support?" And I've said, right. Yep, you come support. And then so they always message me, "Oh, have you got a date yet? Have you got a date?" I said, "Oh no, I'll let you know though." But there's that obligation too. Like people do want to come and support. Yeah. And like I don't seem like whakahihi not telling anyone.
Right.
That was something I'm just thinking about here, because if I want to get done, I'll just want to get done at home. Just so the babies can still run amok inside. Yeah. And then like near the ending just come sitting. Yeah. And then fuck, I wonder if like all these people are gonna come, like this is gonna be packed, or should I just not tell them?
Yeah, it's tricky, It's tricky. I knew that I wanted it to be relatively quiet. I just had mum, dad, and a cousin come in, and it was pretty quiet. All right, we've talked about this a little bit on and off already, but the age-old famous question: do you have to be fluent in te reo Māori in order to get moko?
No, and I always say too, there's a couple of different thought processes. One, you shouldn't be able to talk, but you should be making an effort to utilise reo. You need to be contributing to te ao Māori in a positive way. Some people think that being Māori itself is enough. I was like, "Oh, nah, it's one of those bullshit excuses. You need to be doing something else to ensure the survival of being Māori. Doesn't just lie with what you see. Like you got to be contributing some way back to your marae." And the other thing that I always say is I'd rather do a person who displays manakitanga and doesn't speak reo than someone who does speak reo but is a cunt.
Yeah. Which is basically, Te Haunui had the same sentiment, and like basically, moko, once you get moko, and this is what Lance told me on the day as well, basically you can't be a dick. If you're a dick, moko's not for you, you know what I mean? That doesn't, no matter of Māoriness, vague statement there, but none of that, no fluency in te reo Māori will override the fact if you're a knob, basically.
That's only my whakaaro too. And then that's cool that even they've said that too. Yeah. But that I'm assuming will be common to everyone. I would rather do I always give an example of this moko papa we done. It was 100 years of Te Puia at Tūranga Waiwai. It was the week before coronation or Koroneihana, and we had done all the ringawera, so we had done all the cooks, and all of their kōrero, or the majority of their kōrero was they didn't speak reo just because they were brought up in the kitchen. Like their school and their reo was in feeding the masses and feeding the people, looking after people. So they never spoke it, or their their mothers never spoke it. So they just come to terms that their display of Te Ao Māori is in their ability to feed the multitudes.
Yes.
And then that was a beautiful thing for me too, because like it was a whole group of them. There might have been 30 of them. They were all on the same kind of thought process, that they're finally ready to say, oh, hey, maybe since we don't have reo, we have these aspects of Te Ao Māori. Those ones are the hard ones to get. Like, if you don't know you're an asshole, then you're just going to stay an asshole.
And that sentiment, it's good too, because you're right in the sense of lots of people have this misunderstanding as well, that things like moko are a symbol of your ability to do everything. For some reason, the modern world has expected Māori that if you are Māori and you represent yourself as Māori with things like moko or whatever it might be, that you are the guy who can cook the hangi, do the whai kōrero, do everything, speak the reo, do haka. It's like all of a sudden there's been this assumption that you have to know how to do everything. But actually Lance said to me as well, he said, but there are people who are the cooks. That's their contribution to their whānau. There are kai kōrero. And there are kai kōrero that don't necessarily actually speak Māori fluently, you know what I mean? And then the vice versa. There are people who are fluent in te reo Māori, but doing whai kōrero is not their thing. But it's all contributing to your iwi, your hapu, your whānau in your way. And of course, moko is a representation of you and your contributions to these sorts of things. And so there's a whole range of reasons that you might decide to get moko, and you don't have to have the entire list checked off, you know what I mean? It's like expecting people who work at any job, you've got to be the receptionist, the boss, and the office person, it's like, no, you do your job for your company, in this case your whānau, and that's your role and your part in these things, And
it's just a symbol of where you're at in your own life too.
I said with Te Haunui, it's lots of people see moko as the end point, but it can also be the beginning. For a lot of people, it can be that stepping stone into, from this point forward, I will actively be Te Ao Māori as a Māori person. I'll be learning reo from this point forward, all these steps. It doesn't have to be the end goal.
Because I have people saying, like even in kōrero, they say, I want to wait till I speak reo first before I get it. And then I often say that usually results in never happening at all.
Yep.
And sometimes I have had people get it before they have reo, and it's made them do this stuff. Whereas like they wait till the reo, they have reo, and then they don't get it because of that, but then they don't start to get reo.
Right. Which I can see, because for me personally, I've been learning reo my whole life. I've been doing all these things on and off my whole life, depending on where I'm at in my, of course I'm only very young, but I noticed that there's like an instant change. The day I walked out of there with Lance, my life since then has been completely different in the way that I approach Te Ao Māori, Māoridom in general, your whole. And I feel like you're right, whereas if you never got it, who knows what's to say how your path would have went, 20 years down the line, whether you would have ever learnt that or anything like this. Whereas for me personally, at least, I know from this point forward, there's no doubt in my mind that these things won't happen at some stage in my life,
Yeah.
All right, speaking of the marae, do you have to get moko at the marae?
Nah. It was even me. I said, I'm going to get mine. I want to get mine done at home.
It's pretty straightforward, I think.
Because I often say too, because even that, like people can bullshit that whole process. I remember I was waiting outside for ages for one whānau, and then they didn't even have poiri. They didn't have anything.
Right.
They didn't have kai kōrero. They didn't open. So I was going, hey. So it made it weird for me.
Right.
Yeah, so like if you often get people thinking they have to go to the marae, but they don't know any marae process.
Right. They're just picking it as a venue because they think it's the...
Yeah, like I done my, I wouldn't say it again just in case they get shamed out or anything, but they wanted a pōhiri, and then I asked, sweet, when's pōhiri? They said on Saturday, but we got up there to the the marae on the Friday. And then we got to the Kazis on Friday. And then they go, let's go down to the marae for a feed. And I was like, but then we have pōri tomorrow. And then they go, yep. And then I was like, so we just having whakatau today, tonight. And then they go, I think so. And I was like, yes, sweet is. And then when I run around, when we got to the marae, some of them on the bus, there was a kuri running around in the wharekai, and then like they all just stopped and looked. And then they go, like, awkwardly nodded at my cousin. Then I was going, what's happening? What? You had to do like a karakia for the kai.
Right.
And then I was going, what's this? And I go, this is whakatau? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's whakatau. And then I was going, fuck, well, we're starting off kai and haven't even had Kōrero or anything. So we had kai, and then I was going, I can't come on like with the pōri. So if the pōri's for me, we just cancel it. And I go, no, because there's other people that need to come on too. And I was like, I'll be on this side now. I won't be coming in with them. He goes, you need to. Then I was going, we shouldn't have come tonight.
Yeah.
Like I was going, like if you don't know the processes of things, then don't try and fake it.
Yep. Better off just going to the studio.
Yeah, well, that was actually the one. If you've seen my Kōrero on Kaita, and I said, I've got 3 songs that are banned.
Yeah.
E honore, it was there.
Right.
That same one. And then so now whenever I go somewhere, I was going, you can play a speaker. Speakers all good. Like repeated songs are banned. Like if you only know one song, I prefer a speaker because I get hoha listening to the same song like however long the moko papa goes to. So just play a speaker. Like if you think it's more for the Māori playing a guitar and singing, but it's one song, catch that up.
Yeah.
My bro, one of my best bros, I done his full face. He's like matatau te reo Māori, tikanga Māori. And then he had Tupac on his.
Right.
We're listening to Tupac, but we had a group of mates there, like they mean. So whenever they ready to sing, like we'll pause anything just to have them sing. And then as soon as they sing, he goes, you chuck my Tupac back on. And then he goes, no one's turning it off Tupac unless Nan walks in.
It's probably an interesting thing, that you see as well, of course, is those who are very knowledgeable in those spaces, of course, are then probably to the surprise of a lot of people, not doing all these things that those who are maybe less knowledgeable about think you have to do. Like that. Yeah. The bro obviously was clearly a master of his mātauranga there and was just playing Tupac, like it's not necessarily as deep, I guess, as people think it has to be, particularly if they're not quite educated or a bit unsure, So you're better off just going to the studio than trying to fluff around with the marae that you may or may not be. Because that's also disrespecting to both the mana of your marae and the mana of your manuhiri, so it's you're better off being safe.
Yeah, there was another one. I had been asked to do a mataore at the marae at like 9 o'clock was the set time. I got there at 9. And the kaiwhiwhi didn't rock up till 10.
Oh, yeah.
So I was going, bye.
Yeah.
And then, like, even more so now, even spending a bit of time with rangi, just being a bit more precious with my time.
Yep.
And stuff like that, like, kind of don't like if we've set a time, just let me know.
Yeah.
Now, to be there on that time, be there on the time.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to be late, then I'm all good if you just message, just running a bit later. Sweet. Right. Do something else for like 5-10 minutes or an hour or whatever, because I've always got stuff to do.
Yeah.
But I'm like, when I set up my space, I'm like ready to go and like zen out for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I start every piece at 9. I'll like set up at like 8:15, so like 8:45, 9, I can just sit in there and just get in the zone, the zone. I'm in the zone for too long and nothing's happening, and it'll like take me a little while to like
get back in.
Up again.
Yeah.
Then I was like, God damn it.
So do you have to get moko in New Zealand?
Nah, I wouldn't say. It just depends who the artist is.
Yep.
Because I know one of my favorite artists who I think is respected and in one of the top tiers of ringa whao, Moko Artist, Turu Mākina.
Yep, I was gonna say.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite artists, and like he's at the point where he can do like nearly anything, and no one can kind of question it because
Yep.
he's the man.
Yeah.
And his research and his body of work kind of can back it for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I always try and push the notion that the artist is the key in the modern world, you know, because we have whānau Māori that live all over the world now, you know what I mean? We're not just locked into Aotearoa anymore. And you will find, and realistically, it's not necessarily always possible for our whānau to come all the way back home to find the artists that are local, you know? And so I always try to push the idea that the artist is the key. If you've got the correct artist, you know, you're going to a moko artist. Don't be taking go to any tattoo artist in bloody Switzerland or something and be like, here, can you give me this? Because I'm Māori, but I don't want... No. But I'm saying if you can have access to a real moko artist, the location is less important.
Yeah, I have seen people use the examples where that was done back in the days, like that was how it was done. Like people did used to, like my mate over here, to Hakia, his old man is Sonny Kepa. He said that's how Dad got his mataora back in the days. He took a design to a shop and they did it. Yeah. But like nowadays, like you wouldn't do that just because of the plethora of choice that we have nowadays. Yeah. You don't need to go to non-Māori or tattooists to do it. Yes. Like the skill that's there. And I think back then when he got it done, like there was an artist doing it. No. And the amount of tapu on one's face, like Māori felt that was too tapu, whereas tattooists aren't bound by the same tapu. Right. There was even a kōrero we had at Moko Ora, and it was about putting ashes in the ink. Right. We all said, mate stays with mate, ora ki te ora. Yeah. So we wouldn't do that. And then there was a studio that the bros worked at down south, forget the name of it. But they said someone had asked for a moko with the old man's ashes in it. And then they said, no, we don't do that. Then one of the tattooers said, I'll do it. Right. And he did it. And then they go, fuck, it's out of it. But that's the kind of tikanga that they were bound by too. There's one of my bros, he put a big post on, he got a tattoo of his dad's ashes, and he was going, yeah, my dad, you'll always be a part of me now. And I was, but you're your dad. Yeah. You need ashes in you. Yeah. You need reminding where you come from. Yeah. It's probably less gross than ash. What you a different spiritual boundaries, you know, in those across the artist choices, I guess. Yeah. I know, like they used to. There was cases where they had back in the days, like our tipuna days, like they would crush bones up and drink the bone dust. Right. Just to put the mana of that rangatira into the hapu. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's like something that they were going off. Right. Yeah. Potentially, you never know. Yeah, although to be fair, I almost have a feeling, obviously I don't know, but that the that whole concept of the ashes thing, you know, it's a relatively what seems relatively new. You know, we see how other countries treat ashes, and I think we've probably potentially adopted those concepts and pushing it a little bit more than we may necessarily have done. In history. And, that kind of reflects too. Like we just. Like, because it comes up more and more often, but we all say now, you are a byproduct of your parents. So, like, you don't need pictures. Like, and why? Like, what if they go, fuck, I don't want to put me in the ground. I don't want to be in you. Yeah. Because that's it too, right? That's about also the wairua of the deceased. You know, that's the important part about that too. It's not just about yourself. I feel like some people inherently get a little selfish in the grieving process. You know, it becomes a sort of a comforting them thing versus thinking about things like, well, what about this person who's passed away? You know, it's them.
You know, what if they didn't want to be put in your in your skin?
The other thing, I might just get infected.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this is real bad hygiene too. Like, there's all kinds of red flags around there. No. There was a wahine who come into the shop, like, because they just thought we were a tattoo shop, so we'd often get like some people requesting tattoos. She was wanting that with her pet dragon. Like, she had like a dragon that died.
Right.
She goes, oh, if I get this cremated, can you put some of the ink in? And some of the ash in the ink? No.
Yeah.
And she asked, oh, can I paint him in stencil stuff? And can you stencil his body on me and then tattoo the stencil? Nah, where to do moko?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I go, but fuck, there's a tattooist next door.
Yeah.
You ask him.
Yeah, interesting, eh?
And like, she pulled out like this, like, what is it, a tea towel? And then I flopped it out, and there's like dragon rolled out onto this.
So do you have to stop drinking, smoking, etc. if you mow moko?
If you become a dickhead on them, then you should stop in general.
And that's that same rule of thumb that we mentioned. That's what Te Haunui said as well. He said, no, unless when you drink and smoke, you're a dick. You know, you can see the pattern here, and that moko is about good mana, you know, positive mana, and how you are perceived and representing Maori. And so obviously drinking and smoking is not an issue, but if you are an issue while drinking and smoking, that's the problem.
Yeah, and that's regardless without a moko or not.
That's right. That's right.
One of the things you kind of got to think of is that moko kanohi is like one of the pinnacles of taonga. However you want to reflect yourself. Now, being aware of this taonga will be how you hold yourself mana-wise.
Yes. Exactly. And I think that sentiment you'll see that a lot, people who are tuning in. I don't know my whakapapa, can I get moko?
That's kind of a prerequisite for me. I don't like it when people have it written on a paper and then they come to me, sit down, and then just throw the paper at me.
Right.
And then I was like, what's this? And he goes, oh, it's my whakapapa. I was like, oh, well, tell me. And then, I haven't learned it. How long have you had the paper? And I was like, oh, well, sit there and read it over a couple of times.
Yeah.
But like, because some people, if they want their piece about their whakapapa, then I expect them to know it.
Of course.
But sometimes, like, even if people like want their mahi about their mahi,
right?
Like, if they're in the army and they talks about them climbing up the ranks, now they hold a position.
Right.
I might talk about that. Like, I won't really ask them if they know their whakapapa. I will ask them like where they're from, just so I can like use tohu that reflect that. Like, if they're from a coastal place, then I'll use designs like Kōrero,
right,
Mangopari, Unonahi, and vice versa. If they're from anywhere else, try and use like patterns that best reflect that. But with faces, I do kind of expect them to know that.
Right.
There was a question on that Facebook page too. Someone asked about, would you need to know that you're getting your full face? And then I was going, full face, yep. Like that, yep. Or if you don't know it, then you better be making a start. And that's where someone said, oh, my contribution to Māori is being Māori. I was like, nah. It can only get you so far. Like, if you got your full face, it's when you're talking about kauairunga, kauairaro,
yep,
celestial knowledge and physical knowledge. You can't be just using that anymore. Like, you need to be on more, like, especially when you know what the sections of Mataora represent. Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting thing for people listening in as well to hopefully start to realize, is that it is, at least if we're talking about moko kanohi, and again, if we break it down again to things like Mataora, it's sectional, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's not a one reason, one design type thing. And so lots of people, you can start it without this knowledge. Now, the rest of it can come in certain stages, let's say, right? And so you don't have to have all of them to begin it. You know, you can start that journey where you are, and then you can complete it as you go. You know what I mean? But I think lots of people do. They just sort of paint it as the one thing, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, but wait, why don't you have cheeks, or why don't you have forehead? And because it's not always one thing at once. It can be a journey. The different elements.
And that was even something that I learned too with I don't know, moko papa with Johnny and Pau, one of our good mates too, or Pau Puketapu. This moko papa and Mahia, they had tapawaha, and then all the kaiwhiwhi got tīwhana.
Right.
And they were saying, oh, we need to go koroaha next, because like the sections for them is whānau, iwi, hapu.
Right.
But then for them to go whānau to iwi without doing the hapu.
Right.
For them, and then I was going, oh, true, like, yeah, I didn't know that, like, about their own process.
Yes.
Because they're not together, so they kind of knew that that's what it all represents to them, whereas I've got my own process to what represents what.
Yeah. And that's a tricky thing, I think, for lots of people tuning in as well, maybe to grasp, is that it also is, those processes and meanings differ. There is variation in what it means to Māori and people in these spaces, you know. So like the bro said, and wherever he was at this time, they had this process and it was different, and these things do change, and so it can be very tricky, which is what makes things like what we do here online difficult, because people quite often will like to take the information they have fed at that moment, and that's it, right? That's the God's honest truth. But it's not the case, you know, and it's not the case quite often with Māoridom. There will be different spaces where you'll hear different kōrero, different variations and different meanings behind each person's process. Does the moko artist have to be from your iwi?
Nah, I don't. I try, and that was one of the things that made me not do Edward.
Right.
My mate that ended up getting done from Lance was because he wanted specific tūhoi in there.
Right.
And with the gaps, and then because I was like, oh, what does that represent, the gaps? And then so he went to go ask an uncle what they represented, and then he was telling him, and then he was going, oh, where's this fella from? And then he goes, oh, he's kaungunu Ngāti Pāhuera, Tairāwhiti. And he goes, oh, I think it's selfish of you to put that expectation on him to know it. And then so then he said, he goes, if you want to get markings from tūhoi, then you need to go to a artist who knows tūhoi markings. And I think at the time he had just been done from Lance, I think. So he goes, I'll book you in with the guy who done mine.
Right.
And then, it ended up being with Lance. But
so
then,
as per usual, just sort of a case by case, you know?
Yeah, case by case. And then because the same thing can be said, like, what is it? Oh, my mate Tāmanuhiri, who's not from Raupunga, they'll go, oh, I want to go to Tāmanuhiri because, and then someone will go, oh, is he from Raupunga? And they'll go, oh, nah. You have to come to this person because he's from Raupunga and he'll do you, even if the work's not good. Right. I would say go to Tāmanuhiri because his work's better than this guy, even though you whakapapa there. Even if you share whakapapa, you don't want a crappy matua.
That's right. And and you also want to feel, well, you want a connection with your artist as well, you know, and you don't, just because someone's from the iwi doesn't mean that you're going to have that rapport, like what you said earlier. You know, that's important because it's a big moment. You know, it's a big moment in people's lives. Well, of course, moko anywhere, but particularly if we're reaching into the realm of your kanohi, you know, on your head. You want that artist to be exactly who you want. You want to have no reservations about it. You know, you don't want any, if there's any doubts, it's not time. And that's what I always say. I said, if you at all doubt or have any concerns, it's either the wrong person, the wrong time, the wrong place, you know. And you need to be going into that completely ready for the outcome, whatever that looks like. And so people might get a lot of caught up on like, oh, but I don't really like that artist. Oh, but he's from my iwi. Do I have to use him? And no, find the artist, you know, that works for you if the kaupapa is appropriate, you know, like you said. However, if you're looking for specific symbolism that is representative of an iwi, then it's a different story, right? You're better off.
And that was the other thing that was cool too about Edward still going to go to Lance over me is it because it showed like the state of wānanga that he was into. Like he didn't allow, just because he knows me and we've been tight for so long, for him to come to me. Like his wānanga led him to go to somebody else.
Yeah.
And what I felt was a beautiful part in the process was that this wānanga resulted in us like this.
Yeah.
And he was actually like so upset by it. He said,
right.
And he would say, "Hey, I wanted to ring you. Your number was, I had your number on my phone, and I was like looking at your name. I don't know how to tell him, being like a drama bitch." What did we say for each other? Being a drama bitch.
Because it's interesting though, because even so, for anyone listening doesn't realize, Haruru Arts was actually who I approached originally when I was looking about getting mine done, before I again ended up following on with Lance. And even though I didn't know you at the time, I was just another client, it's still it can be quite thing to have to feel like you're changing your mind or denying someone you're no longer off taking up their work or whatever. And even for me personally, it can be a thing, let alone people who you're actually very familiar with and are very good friends with over the time, and that can be a tricky space to navigate, is that wānanga, and you go, oh, actually maybe such and such ends up being the better fit, or maybe it's purely scheduling just works out better across between two different artists, because as you guys can tell, Moko artists are busy. Those DMs are flooding all the time, but it can still be quite daunting, at least in my experience, to have to tell people no after already approaching them and entering their space, to ask for these things, because it's a big process,
Yeah, and that's the thing that we're well aware of too, is like I've mentioned that a couple of times, the idea of being ready doesn't just lie within you yourself, but the kaiwhiwhi as well, and all these other different aspects of what ready looks like. Yeah, it's just something that happens, like, oh shit, I had it lined up with this person, but maybe it's this person I gotta go to.
Yeah.
It's just something that happens, like, what is it? What is it? Everything happens as it's meant to be.
Yeah, which is true. It's true. One of the most common questions I see, particularly either from the naysayers or the haters or trolls that I get online, but the problem that I find with haters and naysayers is people who do not know, Māori who are tuning in and go into my comment sections are reading these comments, and that's where they start to get these ideas, and the one that I probably see the most is Moko only for chiefs?
Yep, but we're all chiefs.
That's a good way to put it. I think it's a Witi Ihimaera book I was reading, and he talks about how in his whānau, that concept of we're all descendants of rangatira, and so yes, these things are for chiefs, and we are all that, we're all descendants of that.
Like the idea of having more mana over somebody else is kind of not how you want to be looking at things. Like, yeah. And
society changes,
Yeah, there's no one better at being you than you, so you're the chief of your own story.
Nice. Yeah, that's a mean answer.
Yeah, that's the only way I can put it, or best way I can put it. The misconceptions of that, you'll be aware of the Goldie paintings and Lindau paintings, how he only painted subjects.
Yes.
Same, but there's Kōrero.
There's one back there.
I just seen a real life one.
Yeah.
I think it's a real life one. With me and my partner had a early birthday weekend for her last week, and we just stopped in at the museum. And then, there was a Goldie painting in there. Holy shit, I think that's real. Trying to have a look at it, I was going, no, I think that is real. And where it comes from, and it was in the estate of, it comes from the estate of rangatira from around here. That was cool to see a real life Goldie.
Yeah, they're pretty crazy to see in real life. They're quite interesting. At least I find there's a lot of there's a big energy with those paintings, because you feel this sort of, For me, I find this 50-50 emotion towards it. You know, it's kind of beautiful and spectacular, taking a peek into that time. There's a sadness behind them as well.
Yeah. Because at the same time, people refer to them as the photos of the time, but they were art piece, so he'll place them differently, so it's a better subject to paint.
Yes.
So people kind of misread what's actually kind of thing.
But that's a great answer. Everyone's a chief. There you go. All right. So this little question here really is just a chance to share with people who your sort of inspirations are. You know, who are your favorite moko artists? But yeah, who are some of your favorites?
First ones are the bros that I work with. So it's Moko Huia, Tāmanuhiri Russell, Tāwhiri Mātia Prisk, Defiant Natives, Toi Rākau is Charles Paringatai, and Josh Urai, Ukaipo Arts. They're my 4 kahungunu bros that are right to the depths of these fellas. And then you get ones like Henare Brooking, Moko Ida is his, Hohua Mohi, Tāwhanga Rika, Te Haunui, Sai. All very, very talented people. My tauira, he's going to be the man, so he's keep an eye on this fella. Soldier.
Let's go.
Posting him a few more within the next few weeks. He's a tauira at Kura Kaupapa Māori or Ngāti Kaungunu ki Here Taunga. But he's a talented young fella. And Broughton Johnson, he's one of my favourites too. And you can't go past Uncle Mark. That's how I've seen how he can calm a whole room. Where Moko Papa and was and Po Puketapu. He's like, Chemabu. He's another one. So right to the ends of their fella and Tamatama. I've got heaps.
There's so many out there today as well, which is great.
Those fellas, I've done moko papa with them too, and then like I'll have a kaupapa, and then I've asked them to come along last minute, and they've had backs from the get-go, so a huge mihi to Po and Tamatama. Who else? When Te Wihi we were talking about like where you can find inspiration, like you don't need to have a kōrero with a moko artist. You might find pearls of knowledge that can translate into moko. Like Sandy, he's one of my biggest inspirations, and he doesn't do moko, but he paints. He's able to teach us about composition, balance, flow, a manawa line, and all of that stuff. So heaps of the stuff around my design comes from him. And our use of colour comes from Sandy. There was one time we were working at the studio. Our bro Tāmanuhiri was working with a company to put together a colour set, and we were going to call it the Sandy Ed set colour palette. That's because he's the master of colour. And the man. Who else? Oh, my bro Eddie and Joylene, their husband and wife, they're the ones who kind of nurtured me into Te Ao Māori. Heaps of people. Heaps. Yeah.
It's nice seeing. It's nice that you mentioned your tauira, your apprentice or your student or whatever, because of course it's something I haven't actually touched on yet in these videos, and maybe it's something I should revise going forward. But of course, we have the moko artists that exist today already, you know, and that are upholding it currently. But of course, eventually, you guys will be retired. Well, you know, life moves on, and there's got to be the next wave, you know. And not everyone is always not everyone's a teacher, you know. Not everyone is someone who actually then hands said knowledge on. So obviously, you are someone who takes on apprentices for furthering moko and teaching forward. Yeah.
It's just all about trying to leave moko in a better state. So knowing that I can't do it forever, you kind of have to have these kind of succession plans, and we try and teach as much as we can. But one of the hardest things that we've found is it's hard to find what makes tauira tick. People think they're ready to learn until it's time to learn, and they don't want to give up their party, or they don't want to give up a night out with their mates to come to a wānanga. They don't really want to learn. They just want to run a machine
Yeah. Right.
So it's really hard to teach that quality. People think because they can draw that's what we're looking for.
Yes.
It was actually Uncle Mark. There was a young fella who was asking me ages ago, he wanted to learn. And then at the time we were going through the COVID restrictions. So we weren't allowed more than 2 artists at a time in their kaiwhiwhi and no support people. And then so I had organised with and I don't work weekends, so I had organised to work a weekend so no other artists will be in. And so the whānau would be in, the kaiwhiwhi, and then I asked them if I could bring a tauira in to come just sit in on the session. So there was all this planning that I did. Then he didn't end up coming in. And then he thought just because we were bros too, I was going, oh, bro, that's your strike 3. This is the 3rd time you've done this. And he goes, oh, I'll just be in next time. And I was, nah, bro, like, that's it.
Yep.
And then, but before I had that conversation with him, Uncle Mark had stopped in the studio. Then I was going, oh, if I see, if he was here, he could have beat Uncle Mark and Auntie Di.
Yep.
And then, Uncle Mark asked what I was up to. And I was, I don't usually work weekends, but there was a tauira wanting to learn. So I put the space away, organised for him to come, and he didn't show up. And he goes, oh, well, why have you picked him? And he goes, because he can draw. And he goes, the last quality you want to look at, because you can teach anyone to draw. It's if they're committed and if they're going to show up when you've asked them to be there, that's the qualities you need. So I would say move on. And then I was like, well, say no more.
Yeah.
I go, nah, bro, that was your last chance out. I moved so much stuff around for you for today. And you didn't show me the same respect and just turning up.
Yeah. I imagine a lot of, because of the general popularization of tattooing in general, outside of moko, just tattoos in general, it's so popular right now. And of course, not to say that this is the end-all be-all case, but for non-moko tattoos, let's just take any other just tattoos of realism or something, it's about artistry. For the most part, people see it and they go, oh, well, to do that, then I must be the artist, and that's what's required of me. Now, I imagine people see that and they mistakenly then also apply that to moko, but, moko is so much more than the art, right? There's so much more behind it, and I can absolutely see just young bucks coming off who, like, I was drawing Maori designs in my school books, all my life off the side, and that doesn't mean all of a sudden that I'll be like, oh, all right, now I can go be a moko artist now, because I draw the koru and mangopare in my school books and whatnot, knowing that there's so much more behind it that is a part of, obviously, that step to cross into that threshold of an artist. That actually applies outside of moko, of course, but in this context, moko.
Yeah. So that's what I refer to as the overall package of moko, not just the application.
Yeah.
But what I talk about too, like, it's hard for me to ask how long I've been doing moko, like applying moko 6 years, but the overall package, way longer.
Entire life. Yeah. I only got a few more questions left here, but have you ever turned someone away from getting moko, and what was your reason?
Yep, because they were dick.
Yeah, the common theme here, people, as you can tell.
It was really like that. He come in wanting his face done, and then he asked what I charged, and I told him what I charged, and then he goes, oh, my nephew's a moko artist, and he said it should only cost 200. But you're not getting your whole face, because there was, like, I don't know, I'm not a God person, or Jesus, what's that, religious person?
Religious.
But there's like a belt of something, a shield of something, and a helmet of
right.
Heaps of people have asked, because in the Bible there's a helmet of something and a shield and a belt and a something. He wanted all of that. He wanted his puku, he wanted his forearm, then he wanted his full mataora and head.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, bro, that's like 4 days work.
Yeah.
And like each of my days is like 1,200, like back when this was.
Yep.
And then he goes, nah, my nephew said $200 because he's a moko artist. And I was like, oh, well, go to your nephew. He's like, he's not. Then I was going, well, it'll still be cheaper to fly to him and get your $200 moko than what I've just said. What you're asking for isn't possible in one day.
Yeah.
And then he goes, oh, you're just trying to rip me off. And then I was going, are you serious? And then the bro see me getting a bit agitated, then I was going, "No, you need to fucking just fuck off now." The bros kind of see me getting agitated, and I think I was going, "Fuck, can you come talk to this fella? I need some bloody help because I'm gonna lash out soon." And then the bro goes, "Oh, just maybe take a card and then just send a message." And then they left, and then they ended up messaging. He goes, "Oh, we'll just have, he'll just get his mataora instead." And I was like, "I'm not touching him ever with a machine like how like I don't feel comfortable with him."
You know, and the thing about money, I said this with Te Honu as well. For me personally, you know, if moko is as important to you as it is to me, you know, the number is doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter. If moko is truly as special to you as it should be, in my opinion, then there is nothing that you wouldn't do to let it happen, right? It becomes a arbitrary number. And of course, that's it, before you even go into the fact that this is somebody's livelihood. This is your livelihood as a moko artist. You know, you wouldn't expect to go and build a house for free. It's the same. It's all just work. You know, that's, of course, that's that usual mistreatment of people in the arts. But on the topic of money, which isn't a question, but we've had this conversation together before in private, was you used to do the koha system, but obviously you told me the story about the capsicum, I think it was, or something outrageous like that. But obviously, one, tell people what that system is, but unfortunately, of course, the abuse that system can face.
Yeah, it's just because people have a misunderstanding of what koha is. So people think koha was just a whatever you have. So if you only have 20 cents, then that's your koha, where that's the case. Like a koha is an exchange of equal value or mana or whatever you want to call it. And there was a lady, she had said that she was going to bring me I asked her, she said she was an artist, and then I go, "Oh, can you do me a painting of a tui, and I'll do your kauai for a painting of a tui," because I just had a miri, and like tui was a dominant bird and all these visions that the matakite was having. So I go, "Oh, I'll have a painting of a tui, please. Oh, if you can do that." And he goes, yep, sweet. And he goes, "Oh, lucky, because I had a image of a sphinx that I was just going to take to the dump, but I'll koha that to you instead." And I was going, "Oh, fucking, I don't want to hear that you're koha something you want to take."
It's going to go to the rubbish.
Yeah. And then she goes, "Oh, sorry, see, that's why I didn't know. That's why I asked it." I was like, "Yeah, I told you a tui, painting of a tui." She goes, "Oh, okay, yeah. And I'm going to bring a steam pudding in for the boys and a raw fish." And I was like, just whatever you do, just that's what koha is. Just you can do whatever. And we've had this conversation to clarify like what koha is. And you've asked me, and then I've said a painting of a tui, so that's like what at least is what I expect. And then like she come in, got her kauai, handed over this bag, and I opened up the bag, and it was a broken art piece that she was going to take to the dump. And then I was like, "You bamboozled me." And it was quite funny because I just finished the puhoro like 2 weeks ago, and then I got a midweek miri from it. And then the bro who actually done it, he was going, "Oh, bro, yeah, my auntie, she got her kauai, and then she come over. She's my mum's sister. She ended up coming over and telling us, 'Oh, I got my kauai done today.'" Yeah, they go, and then they all go, "You better have bloody done something properly for the artist and not just bullshitted it." He goes, "Oh, I just gave him an art piece." And he goes, "Oh, well, only if he asked for art piece." And then I was going, "What was her name out?" And he said her name, and I was going, "Fuck, I was the artist. And she gave me this." And then he goes, "Oh, I'm going to go hit her up." And I was going, "Oh, you bloody idiot." Because I remembered her name too. He said it was something else. And then I go, "Is she known by this name? Because I remember this name." And like how I said, like part of the booking process that helps me like remember people, it like really does. And like I remembered her name, and then like what he was explaining, and then but when he was giving me a different name, I was going, "Oh, that reminds me of this lady, blah blah blah." And I said the other name. He goes, "Yeah, that's her other name." Then I was like, "Oh, it's your auntie."
Classic. This is basically the last question, but so something I do a lot is I talk about how Maori is represented in media, video games, movies, blah, 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 blah. And obviously a word that we see a lot in this context is cultural appropriation. So when it comes to moko representation in pop culture media, where for you as a moko artist is that line between appreciation and appropriation?
As long as it's done from a moko artist, then kei te pai tērā.
Mm-hmm.
But I know like heaps of games like wrestling, I think they misappropriated heaps of Wuramu barrel balls. He's like the number one victim of all of that shit from all those people.
Right.
Chinese businesses, they'll steal stuff. Yeah, feel wretched as for Wuramu. You know what?
Yeah, it's not in frame, but I got one of his blankets over there.
Oh, gee. You see, I got one over there and a couple of Noah one. But yeah, those just if it's done properly, then all goods. But not, because you even see in movies like Gordon. He was one of the ones who used to do moko on heaps of those a couple of those movies.
He did Ender's Game, from what I know. Yeah.
The guy's name?
Ben Kingsley.
Yeah, on him.
Yeah.
And I was going, no one can argue with Gordon. So if you try and pick anything, good luck.
Yeah. You know, and I think it's an interesting thing when we hear about backlash in certain things. Now, obviously, some of it's warranted, but then there are also circumstances like Ender's Game, for example, where obviously Gordon Toy, one of the like upper echelon moko artists we have, took part in it. And I still remember there being backlash for it. And I'm always curious, in my experience, the backlash tends to come from people who obviously, like we mentioned earlier, they're not necessarily the ones actually with the knowledge, you know what I mean? It's kind of they're uncertain about it, so they jump on the train because they think it's what's right. Like kind of what you said about the people taking you to the marae. You know, they think they have to do these things, so they do it and it ends up being incorrect or, you know, not done completely properly. People's tendency to jump onto things without actually kind of either researching it or knowing the history behind these things. So then, of course, because an interesting thing, of course, as well is the concept of lots of people say, oh, well, you know, one Maori person can't speak for all of Maori, which is true. And, you know, so maybe only one Maori person was consulted, say, for a film or a video game. But arguably, that's still just good enough because it's better than none, you know?
Yeah, that's true too. And I think too, just because of who Gordon is, like he holds enough mana in that space, is if they spoke to a non-artist, like that's what I was saying, like to test the boundaries of the colour and the kanohi needs to come from somebody like that. Like we know Gordon's the man, so like anybody can just trust him with what he does with whatever.
The mana speaks for itself.
Yeah, if they went to like someone who's Māori and doesn't even know art just to do it, they go, hey, who's it?
Yeah.
Like some people, like that's like, or what is it? There was a Kōrero when Barack Obama gave a speech and someone said, if anyone else gave that speech, it wouldn't have the same impact. Kind of what else has the person done to justify what they've done?
What they're saying.
And what's included in their whole body of work. And that's the thing that because I always still call out cultural appropriation too. Like when I see Brazilian artists tagging Polynesian style of work and they're doing, I was going, oh, another one of these bastards. I was going, you don't even know what those designs are called. But then like, the application is so beautiful, perfect, like main design, but like they're just culture vulturing. Yeah. Well, with like no other like intention of anything around that culture. That's one of the reasons why I don't do fusion. Right. Like the mana of moko stands on its own. Yep. So although I've done it like in the past, like the more I've like refined my lane, the most I've done is like a butterfly with moko in there. Right. But yeah, that just goes down to like the boundaries you're willing to push, like coming from rangi? What boundaries are you willing to push, and are you able to defend? So you're trying to trend set. But yeah, the one with the games of how it's being appropriated or culturally appropriated into movies and games and stuff just depends on who.
Yeah.
Because if it's done properly through Moko Artist, or like our bros, like they got their contract to do the Billabong kaku.
Right.
Like that's like a mean ass. Billabong's like up there as like surf label.
Yeah.
And it's that our bros got to do that. Like hard out. Our bros Hinare and Maya, or it might have been just Maya, I'm not too sure, but Toyake anyway over in Gizzy. So he just talks about like the spaces we're able to go to. That idea of one not speaking for all is the most appropriate conversation that I can think of off the bat is the marae in Sydney.
Yes.
A documentary, and it like got me pissed off hard out with the Māori trying to build it. Like I was going, bro, they'll tangata whenua, they've got their own struggles. Like we should be helping them before we try anything like this. And they said that we had we've gone on the proper avenues like council wise, and we consulted a group of the hapu. But then in the documentary, they're talking to a group. They go, no, they talk to like a group like way not even from this land, like because the Aboriginals, they have like different languages too, like not even different dialects, like, and they hadn't gone through the proper tangata whenua channels. They went through the proper Pākehā policies like councils and government stuff. But then there's heaps saying, I was watching it, I was getting pissed off, and I was going, hey, what are you up to? Then even we went to New Mexico for this rangatai conference. It was an Indigenous youth conference. And then so there was a contingent from Australia, and they were talking about the struggles that they've had as Aboriginal tangata whenua. And they were talking about their plans and their policies they have set up for their rangatai at the moment, their babies, and they're just still establishing kohanga reo. One of their most popular resources of this organisation was head, shoulders, knees and toes in the language.
Right.
And like that was like a big thing on their YouTube, like that a resource that they shared with everybody. And then there was another group from New Zealand, like they were pretty hard to work with. They weren't a part of our group.
Right.
One of them made the comment, and he goes, oh, how we even have kohanga in Australia? And then we'll go, bro, fuck, did you just hear what they said? Like how their people were treated? And I was going, don't try and make jokes like that. And then and that's another group to shout out to too, is Toi Matarua. My sister's business. She does heaps of mahi o rangatai. She's what her mum, Charlize, and Auntie Sally, they do heaps of mahi o rangatai, and it's mean as to see. And yes, they actually took me overseas with them to use mahi toi as part of the presentation too for this hiding. But it's cool, the mahi they do. Like, yeah, I want the whole art forms of art to be flourishing with rangatai too. That's why I've chosen Soldier to be my next tauira, because he's still a rangatai too, and it's like a way for like upbringing through the arts. I always tell people too, like I didn't find myself doing arts until I was an adult, because I wasn't allowed to do it at school.
Yep.
Whereas my babies are going to be brought up in the arts from day dot. So the plan or the hope is, so by the time they're my age, they're like way more developed than what I am at 33, then where they're going to be at 33, or they're going to be developed. Even at 26, 27, when I started to do moko, I think when I was 20, I started to do mahi toi and learn ko whaiwhai. So they're going to have that. Even as 3-year-olds, my girl, she come with me when I bought Soldier's artwork yesterday, and then she goes, can I hold it, Daddy? And she was holding it. She's, look, Daddy, a kōrero, look, Daddy, e pūhoro tēnei. And I was like, fuck, man. And my big boy, he was 4, and then like at his koanga, like someone has to open up the assembly, and then it was Kahungunu, he had to open up, and I was going, I watching it, try not to cry, and I was going, he's 4 and opened up hui, and I didn't open my hui of my first hui till I was like 28. Yeah, so that's the pathway for our kids, is to be better than us at everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So look after us so we can retire sooner.
Yeah. Oh, mean, bro. Well, that's us. Thank you so much for taking the time out to sit down and have a kōrero with me today. You got some beautiful kaupapa ahead of you. You know, clearly teaching it forward. Sounds like you got some beautiful whānau, beautiful kids to further teach and share your amazing banks of knowledge, and young, you know, many years ahead, obviously. I say that, I'm younger again, but you know, like you said, relatively young in the game in comparison to some of the people you've mentioned throughout our kōrero today. Last little bit, is there any advice that you have for Māori who are thinking about getting moko?
If you're wanting to get moko, just be committed to not being a dickhead. Nah, seriously, that is probably the main one. Just figure out why you want moko, and not to be just a show pony kind of.